Hi, my name is Glenniec, and for this PowerPoint presentation, it will be on human trafficking amongst at-risk adolescents. So I did want to throw in some statistics. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is one of 13 high-intensity child prostitution areas. One out of the seven victims are most likely sex trafficking. One out of seven runaways are most likely sex trafficking victims. 88% of sex trafficking victims were in the care of social services or foster care. Nevada ranks 10th in the nation for total cases reported in 2017. So the purpose of this assignment is to bring awareness to this topic, and I wanted to do it on human trafficking because the cases in Las Vegas have multiplied, and according to the U.S. Department of Justice, they filed a lot more cases than they have in the previous years, and that can be a multitude of reasons. It could be more because social media or there's more resources available and there's more advocates and advocacy available for victims that are able to process these cases. But they're trying to head into 2021 with increased investigation and vigilance. So to start off, human trafficking is defined as the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by improper means, such as force, abduction, fraud, or coercion, for an improper purpose. Las Vegas is trying a few different things, like they just did an Operation Shield that was used to combat human trafficking on one of a main street here in Las Vegas called Tropicana, which I've lived here for 23 years, and it is a very popular street for drug sale and prostitution. So the first step was to reach out to a few different people by email or by phone and set up interview times and dates. I was able to conduct 3 different interviews, 2 by phone and 1 by email. These are the questions that were asked, and I didn't want to overwhelm the slides with the questions, so they are on the bottom on the notes section. The first one that I want to start with is Street Teens. So Street Teens, they're a nonprofit home that assists homeless, abandoned, and at-risk youth from the ages of 12 through 21. Um, when the adolescent walks in, they are required to have an ID and an assessment is given to them. There is questions regarding trauma and sexual abuse, and this is just to see if they're in any kind of danger. It's a little difficult to get a straight answer from adolescents, mostly if they're scared. And most of the time, it just takes some rapport building. Since all volunteers are able to interact throughout the house with them, eventually the adolescent will end up opening up and will end up requiring different additional resources. Um, so as far as reporting to the authorities, they don't report unless the adolescent wants to go through doing it themselves, and one of the volunteers or the interns will be there to assist them. If they are for sure that they know who the pimp is, or they have some extra information that could really be helpful, they do report it, but most likely they don't. Another one, that my second interview site that I wanted to include in this, they're called the Cupcake Girls. They don't really provide resources for adolescents, and it kind of goes like the opposite way of like human trafficking, even though they do provide services for human trafficked victims. But the Cupcake Girls actually started off in Seattle by taking cupcakes into brothels and strip clubs and making sure that the sex workers knew that there was resources available for them and a safe place. And then eventually they came to here to Las Vegas, and they ended up providing support for those in the industry and the people that have been affected by sex trafficking. Um, they're a pretty amazing group, and the clients come in with small needs like needing help with taxes, needing a dentist or a doctor that are sex worker friendly, or they just need an advocate for court or certain resources. All the volunteers and interns are trained with extensive trauma informed tactics, and they do provide all kinds of services for individuals who do sex work or have done sex work consensually or non consensually. Basically, their goal is to educate and to make sure that these sex workers know that there is services in case they need them and in case they're being abused or if they don't have a place to go or if they're doing it non-consensually, they have a place that they know that they can go to. The next one is the Rape Crisis Center. The Rape Crisis Center has been a part of Las Vegas for 45 years. Now, with the Rape Crisis Center, I learned a lot more from them than I did the other two because I didn't know that they provided so much educational services. They actually have like hotlines that are dedicated to crisis, and they go into schools and they have these programs that like they have a program called CAP, which helps elementary school kids learn about safe adults and like being able to identify what adult is safe and not. And they also have programs for parents and teachers and medical professionals that teach them how to recognize signs of child sexual abuse. Um, I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions and educational lacks here in Las Vegas is the fact that this is Las Vegas and it's the city that never sleeps. So I talked about this with all my interview sites, and I think they all had the same grounds as to like when you think about human trafficking in a city like Las Vegas, people are always like, no, it doesn't happen because how does it go unnoticed if Las Vegas never sleeps? So people are always out and about. So how does a kid just get taken and get trafficked? Another misconception that's huge is human trafficking victims will attempt to seek help in public. And the biggest one is the appearance of a pimp. Um, Pimps don't walk around wearing fur coats and grills and, look like they do in the movies anymore. Like these can be young adults, they can be white, they can be black, they can be Asian, Hispanic. Now these people that are taking um, and trafficking humans, they look like normal people. And I feel like that's a misconception that a lot of people have to start looking at it differently. Um, I did add a slide about COVID-19 because it has unfortunately affected everything for everyone's life. And when I go back to the reflection, I believe that time was my biggest challenge. I do work a lot, like many of us do, and I go to school and I have my internship, and it was really hard to manage the interviews and getting the questions right and having to organize it all together. But overall, it was a great learning experience, and I was able to connect with so many great individuals that live and that assist my community. And I look forward to actually working with them in the future. But I did add a few things in the notes, and I would love to hear some questions, and I would love to hear feedback. And I really, really enjoyed this whole project. Thank you. Have a good night.